Hi, this is Jeremy Simon with 3D Universe. I wanted to share a video with you today to introduce you to the e-NABLE Web Central application that we've been working on. This is a work in progress. We've got a lot more work to do, so this video is only going to be useful for a short period of time because the application is going to keep changing, the screens will change, the new buttons will be added, etc. So this tutorial is only going to be useful for a while, but hopefully it'll help you to get started as of now, which is early June 2017. So the first thing you need to do to use this application is create a login for yourself. Now, this application is intended for anyone who's looking to obtain an e-NABLE device, as well as for volunteers who are interested in making e-NABLE devices. So there's two ways to log in. You can use an email and password, or if you scroll down, there's a button to click to sign in with Google so that you can use your existing Google account to sign in. If you choose to sign in with email and password, the first thing you have to do is create an account. So there's a link here. Click here to create a new account, which I'll do now. And I'm just going to set up a test account to demonstrate how this process works. Once you've entered your email and password, just click on Create a New Account. And it takes you immediately to the registration process. On the registration screen, the first thing that you'll do is enter your full name. Then click Next to continue. And there's a brief disclaimer which you should read carefully, and then check the box to accept and click on Next to proceed. On the next screen, you can determine whether you're seeking help, offering help, or both seeking and offering help. So if you're just looking to obtain a device, you can select the first option. If you're just looking to make devices for other people, you can select the second option. And if you're looking to do both, you can choose the third option. I'm going to go ahead and choose seeking help for this particular example, and then click Next. So when you're seeking help, or if you choose the both option, you'll be provided with a screen where you can select the information for the device recipient. So you need to provide the name of the person who's receiving the device. I'll just make something up here. Now it's asking for the last name or initial of this person. Just note that only the last initial will ever be displayed. Even if you put in a full last name, only the last initial of the recipient will be displayed. So the recipient's information is always kept confidential. Relationship of the recipient, I'll just say friend for this case. And the recipient's age. Let's say this is a 16-year-old. Are you working with an occupational therapist or other medical professional? I'll say not yet. Now, it's worth noting that e-NABLE always recommends that you do work with a professional, either an occupational therapist or a prosthetist, somebody who can assess the device and make sure that it fits properly on the recipient. Do you have a preferred device type? Now there's a long list of available devices that are supported by e-NABLE Web Central. In the near future, we're going to be adding pictures for each of these devices so that you can see what each of them are, because you might not be familiar with all these designs. For now, just do your best to choose any device that you might be familiar with, or you can just leave these checkboxes unselected and leave it to the e-NABLE volunteers to recommend a device design for you. I'll go ahead and choose the Unlimited Phoenix, which is sort of the current recommended design in the community. And we'll choose Raptor Reloaded as a second option. That's sort of the previous design that came before the Phoenix. You can choose whether you need a left or right hand device. We will be updating this in the near future so that there will also be an option for both, for somebody that might need both hands, and an option for other. For example, somebody might need a replacement finger and don't need to indicate whether it's a left or right. You can then specify some of your preferences for the device. Maybe you want a certain color, maybe you want a certain kind of a design, like there's certain superhero themes that have been created and things like that. I'll just put in silver. I like the silver designs. Then we ask whether e-NABLE has your permission to share photos and basic information about the recipient. And there's three options here. The first one is yes, e-NABLE may share photos of the recipient and basic information, like the first name. The second option is that e-NABLE may share only anonymous photos of the recipient, so nothing containing faces or anything that would make that person recognizable. And the third option is please don't share anything. I'll choose the middle option here. Are you already working with anyone within e-NABLE? If so, whom? So I'll just put my own name in here. Do you have a 3D printer or have access to one? So you can say, yes, I have a 3D printer, or I may be able to get access to one, or no, I don't have access to one. I'll just leave it on the default. I may be able to get access to a 3D printer. And then the last question here is, are you interested in learning how to make an e-NABLE hand? So maybe you're interested in creating this for yourself, and somebody can help guide you through that process. I'll leave it on the default of maybe need more information. And then click Next to proceed. Now we come to the contact information page. So here we're prompted for an email address, which has already been provided, a phone number, which I'll just put in something temporary here. That's not a required field, by the way, so you can also just leave it blank. Your street address, which is also an optional field. Note that you do have the ability to choose later which information is going to be shared with other users of the application. So even if you enter your street address, that doesn't mean that it's going to be visible to anybody else unless you designate it as something that you want to have shared. So we'll go ahead and put in something temporary here. And let's see, I'll make up an address here. I'll just say that's in Evanston, Illinois, 60201. Country is required, so the city and the country are the only fields of the address that are required, so that we can provide some general location information so that we can find volunteers that are in your area. Any additional contact related information, this is optional. You can just fill in any additional details that you might like to provide. If you have a website that you'd like to share, you can provide that here. If you're a member of e-NABLE, what are your current activities? So if you're already a part of the community, you can share here what you're up to. And if you're a member of e-NABLE, you can click here to select the date of when you joined the community, so you can indicate how long you've been a member. We'll just choose a random date here. You can enter previous activities to indicate what you've done previously. And how did you hear about e-NABLE, which again is an optional field to just tell us how you heard about the community. Then click Next to proceed. And now you're taken to the home screen, which is the device requests screen, accessible up here in the upper menu bar, so you can always get back to it that way. Now on this screen, it'll list any cases that you have created, any new device requests, and there's a button down here where you can create a new device request. But notice we already have one that's been created as a result of that registration process. So it has our recipient name, showing only the first name and last initial. There's currently no volunteers assigned, but that'll be updated soon as we walk through the process here. And the current status is that we've created a new case, and our next step is that we need to now upload sizing photos, and then click on Ready for Expert Review in order to make it available to other volunteers. Now you'll also notice up at the top of the screen that there's a notice up there saying that our address has not yet been verified, and it's directing us to the address verification page. This is important to do because your cases will not show up for the volunteers that are browsing available cases until you do that. So we'll go ahead and click through to address verification, and it takes us to that screen where it shows on a map, recognizes the address, and it says now address is verified. Now you may notice that on the map only the city is highlighted, not the exact street address. And that's because throughout the application, wherever maps are presented, for example when volunteers are browsing the various cases, we only show the city where each case is located. We're not going to display your specific street address. That's information that you can choose to share with people who are assigned to your cases so they know where to send your device, but your exact street address will not be displayed on the maps throughout the e-NABLE Web Central application, and that's why you're only seeing the city displayed here. And if that looks okay, you can just click on Verify and Save. Otherwise, you can make any changes here to your address as needed. And then once you're satisfied with where it's showing on the map, you can go ahead and click Verify and Save. Now we can go back to the profile details. And on this profile details screen, this is where you can set up your profile information. You can edit the information that you provided during the registration process. You can add a photo for your account to show up on your profile screen, and you can select which information is being shared with other people. And I want to call your attention to that now. So if we click on Edit Sharing, you have the option to choose which information is being shared with other people. So your last name, you have three options. Private, so nobody but you can see it. Case associations means anybody that's on a case with you. So volunteers that have been assigned to your case can see that, but nobody else can see it. Or public, that is, anybody can see it through your public profile page. You have the same options for your email address, your phone number, and your street address. So I'm going to go ahead and leave last name as private. Email I'll leave private because there's the ability to send messages within the application, so you don't have to share your email if you don't want to. Phone number I'll leave private, and the street address I'm going to say case associations because I do want the volunteers that are working on my case to be able to see my address so they know where to ship the device. And then I'll save changes here, and that goes back to the profile screen. By the way, you can always get back to this profile screen by clicking on your name up here where it's in the upper right hand corner where it says user and then it has your name. Just click there and that'll take you back to the profile screen. For now, I'm going to go back to the device request page so we can take our next step. So now we need to go into the case details screen. We do that by clicking on the case ID here under device requests. So I'm going to click into that and that'll take me to the case details. Here it provides a summary of the case with all the information we provided, the recipient's name, the relationship, the age, the type of devices that we're interested in, the color preferences, etc. We can always edit those case details using this button here, and you can close a case if you decide that it's no longer needed or you want to start over and create a new device request. This is the one that we're interested in right now, though, sizing photos. Before any volunteers will be able to see your case, you need to upload some sizing photos. And it's very important that you take those photos correctly so that the volunteers can see the information they need and be able to take measurements from those photos. So there's a link right down here to a video created by e-NABLE volunteer Peter Binkley that'll show you exactly how to take those photos. So please watch that video before taking your photos. Once you've reviewed that video, you can go ahead and take the sizing photos as instructed, and then click on this Add Photo button. I'll go ahead and select a couple of sizing photos and upload those here. Those photos will show up. Now, as soon as you've uploaded at least one sizing photo, you'll see a new button that appears up here that says Ready for Expert Review. You have to click that button once you're done uploading your sizing photos. If you don't click on Ready for Expert Review, volunteers won't be able to see this case when they're browsing the available cases to be able to offer help. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Ready for Expert Review now, and it tells me that it's been received and that now I'm supposed to wait for an expert to review my case and provide a recommendation. So that's as far as I can go right now as a user who's requesting a device. Now I just have to wait. And back on my device requests page, which I can visit at any time, it'll show here under volunteers when there's been an offer made for somebody to help as an expert, as a fabricator, as an assembler. And we'll be adding other roles as we move forward, but for now those are the three that are available. So as soon as offers have been made to help, we'll see those updates here and we'll be able to proceed to the next step. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to a different screen where I'm logged in as a volunteer. So now I'm logged in as myself, and you'll notice that I have a lot more options up on the menu because I'm signed in as a volunteer now. So now I have, for example, I now have access to the volunteering page. So I can go to the volunteering page, and there I'll have a list of my active cases. I already have one case that I'm working on here, but I'll also have the ability to browse available cases. So let's go into that screen. This is what volunteers would see when they're using the app. So I now come to a map view that shows all the cases that are currently available, and this will be a global map. We don't currently have any cases outside of the United States showing since we just launched this application, but we do see pins for each of the cases that have been set up along with our own location there on the map. There's some filters up top here where you can look only for cases that don't yet have an expert or a fabricator or an assembler assigned, depending on which roles you're looking to play. I'll leave those unselected for right now. There's also a checkbox on the bottom of the map to hide any cases that are not in the current map view. So if I check that box, it's only going to list the cases that are shown in the current view of the map. So if you want, you can zoom in to your area. For example, I'm up here in Illinois, and I can zoom into that area and then check that box, and I'm only going to see the cases that are in that map view, which happens to be the case that we just created, this one over here in Evanston. So there's case number 69. That's the one that we just created in the previous step. And as a volunteer, I can now go in and review that case. Now on the case viewer screen, I can see the details of that case, and I can see what types of devices are being requested. I can see the sizing photographs that were uploaded, and most importantly, I have a button that says Offer to Help. So after reviewing this information, if it looks like, that's a device type that I know how to make, and I have the sizing photographs, that looks like a case that I can handle, yeah, I think this is something I want to get involved in, I can go ahead and make an offer to help. So I click on this button, and I have the option to provide one of three roles. I can recommend device type and scale, so that's what's referred to by the expert role. I can be the device fabricator, that's the person who 3D prints the parts for the device. And I can be the device assembler, the person who puts those parts together, or strings up the cords, adjusts the tension, etc., and then sends it off to the end user. And as you can see, I can also select all three of those roles or any combination thereof. But one note is that I can't select the fabricator role without also selecting the first role, that is recommend device type and scale. And that's because somebody has to make that recommendation. Somebody has to review the sizing photographs and determine what type of device is going to be best for this user and what scale is needed to fit properly. So if I want to be the fabricator and nobody else has offered to take on that expert role to recommend the type and scale, then I'm going to need to take that on as well. So I'm going to go ahead and choose all three roles in this case and make the offer. And it now says that my offers have been submitted, and I can close that. Notice that it automatically assigns me as the expert because that doesn't need to be approved by the person who's requesting the device. Any volunteer who has the proper skill set to review these sizing photographs and make recommendations is free to do so. That hasn't been coded into the application yet, so right now any volunteer can do that. In the future there will be a specific approval for the expert role, and there'll be specific criteria to be met for that. But for now, any volunteer can fill that role. The other roles that I offered, the fabricator and the assembler, it shows one outstanding offer, and that's because my offers to help are now waiting to be approved by the user who created this case. So I'm not technically assigned to the case as the fabricator or assembler just yet. I've just made an offer to help. Another important note for volunteers is that the e-NABLE Web Central application makes use of Credly badges in order to determine who is authorized for making different types of devices. And you're going to need to obtain the appropriate types of badges before you'll be able to offer assistance on any of the cases within e-NABLE Web Central. So the first thing to do, if you haven't already done so, is to set up your Credly account. You'll find a link to the Credly site and e-NABLE's badge page under Documentation. If we scroll down on the documentation page, towards the bottom there's a section on Credly badges. And within there's a link to the Credly website. And that'll take you to e-NABLE's page on Credly, where they have all the different badges for the different device types. You just have to create an account, which you can do right up here. So once you've set up your Credly account, you can click on Claim Now, and then you can claim the appropriate badges for the device types that you have either fabricated or assembled. You'll see that each device type has a badge for fabrication and another badge for assembly, so you'll need two badges for each design. In order to claim a badge, you just select the appropriate design, like we'll do the Raptor Reloaded, for example, here, and you just click on Claim Now. And it'll take you to a page where, if you're signed in, you'll be able to submit your evidence for that design in the form of photos of the device that you've created and submit that for approval. Once those badges have been approved, that will then trigger the authorizations within e-NABLE Web Central so that you can get involved in cases that are requesting those types of devices. So back on e-NABLE Web Central, the way that you update that is to go to your profile page. So click on your name in the upper right corner to go to the profile page. And if you scroll down, you'll see a Credly Badges section, and you can click where it says Change Credly Email. Put in the email address that you used when you signed up for your Credly account, And when you click OK, e-NABLE Web Central will reach out to Credly and retrieve all of your badges and display them here for you, and that means that it's now updated all of your badge information and you're ready to go. So now when you go into the volunteering screen and you click on Browse Available Cases, you'll not only see the cases, but you'll be able to actually offer help on them for the devices that you're authorized for. You'll notice also that there's a filtering option. There's a checkbox right here to say show only cases for devices that I'm approved for. So once there are more cases in the system and there's a whole bunch of them showing up there, you can filter the view to only show those that are looking for the device types that you're familiar with. So I'm going to switch back over to the user's view, where we logged in as the user who created this device request. Okay, so here we are back at the device request screen, or the home screen, where you'll end up when you first log into the application. And you can see here the case that I created, and you now see that it has an expert assigned, and I can click on that link there to go and view that expert's profile page. And you can see their details and all the badges that they've earned, so the different device types they're approved for, etc. But I also see that there are outstanding offers for fabricator and assembler. So what we do now is we go back into the case details screen. I'm going to click on the case ID link here. And if I scroll down there to the volunteers section and it shows those outstanding offers, I now have a button that says Approve Volunteers. So I can click on that. It shows me my two offers that have been made, one for fabricator and one for assembler. And it shows me the profile over here for the person that's making that offer. So again, I can click to view that volunteer's profile, get some information like how long have they been a member, what different types of devices do they know how to make, where are they located, etc. And if everything looks okay, then I can go ahead and accept those offers. I do have the ability to reject an offer if I choose as well, but I'm going to go ahead and accept both of these offers here. Now if I go back to the device request screen, you'll see that those volunteers, in this case it's myself, the same volunteer, has now been assigned for all three roles. So it's now showing me, Jeremy, as the assigned volunteer for this case. So that's as far as I can go as the end user right now. I have approved those volunteers, and now basically I'm waiting for the expert, in this case myself, Jeremy, to come in and make a recommendation by reviewing my sizing photographs and giving me a recommendation for the best device type and scale. So let's switch back over to the volunteers view. So here I am back on the volunteering home page, signed in as myself, and on the volunteer page, which is always accessible by the way, right up here in the menu under volunteering, on that page I can see the active cases I'm associated with, and I now have this new case for the recipient John S. That's the one that we just used for this demo, and it now shows me as the assigned volunteer. Notice that the current status and next step is not exactly accurate. It's still showing that we need to upload sizing photos and then click the Ready for Expert Review button. That's just because we haven't finished coding that part in the application quite yet. So in the very near future, the status and next step will be automatically updated by the application, and it'll sort of guide you through the whole process. For right now, the volunteer who is working on the case needs to update those manually. So if I go back into the case now as the volunteer, I can go down to the recommendations section. So the first thing I would do is I would download these photos. I can open them up and I can download the full-size versions, and I would determine what type of device and what scale is going to be best for this particular recipient. Once I've done that, I can click on this Make Recommendation button, and I can choose what type of device or types of devices would be appropriate for this particular recipient. So in this case, the recipient suggested maybe the Raptor Reloaded or Unlimited Phoenix would be good. Now, I don't necessarily have to agree with that when I make a recommendation. I could suggest something else if I think a different design is going to work better. But in this case, let's say I agree that the Unlimited Phoenix is perhaps the best design for this person. Now I can also recommend multiple device types, and I'll show you that here just so that you can see what it looks like on the user's end. So I'm going to select the Unlimited Phoenix and the Raptor Reloaded. Those are the two designs that were indicated as preferred device types. Now I also have to put in a scale for the sizing. So what size is going to be best for this user? Let's say that after reviewing those photos, I determined that 140% scale is the ideal size for this user. And for the Raptor Reloaded, let's say it's 150% 44. I don't know, maybe it's a little bit different. Sometimes the different designs are scaled a little bit differently, so I'm just using some random figures here to show you how this works. I can also indicate whether customization is needed for this device. Let's just say no, that the standard devices are going to work in this case. I can then put in some comments for the user here, and then submit the recommendation. Once that recommendation has been made, the user who created the case can go in and review those recommendations and accept one of the recommendations that have been made. So let's go to that screen now. I'm going to go back in as the user. So we're back on the device request page, and I'm going to go into my case ID here and scroll down to recommendations, and notice that there is a recommendation there which is clickable. So I'm going to click on that recommendation, and I then see the comments from the expert as well as the options that I have to choose from. So I can choose one of these devices. I can say, yep, let's go with this one, or let's go with this one, and then I can enter comments below. I can also request a new recommendation. Maybe I don't like the options that were presented. I can go ahead and provide some feedback here and then request a new recommendation. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and choose to accept the recommendation for an unlimited Phoenix and click on Accept Selected Device. And it now shows down here that the accepted device is the unlimited Phoenix with a scale of 140% without any customization. And now we're ready for the volunteers to proceed with the fabrication of that device. So as the user, I'm now back in waiting mode, waiting for updates to come through. So I'm going to switch back to the volunteer view now. Okay, so back on the volunteer homepage now, I'm going to go back into that case. And now that I see that the recommendation has been accepted, I'm going to go ahead and provide a status update to the user. So for now, I can click on this case status button here, and I can manually update the current status and next steps. So I'm going to say fabrication is in progress for the current status, because I'm about to start 3D printing their device. And for next steps, I'll say wait for fabrication and assembly to be completed. And I can save that. And now the user will see that when they look on their homepage for device requests, they'll see that as the current status and the next step. Now in the near future, the application is going to be updating the current status and next step for us automatically. As you move through the case and you click the different buttons to trigger different actions, the application will know what the current state of the case is, and it will automatically update what the current status description is and the next step. That just hasn't been built in quite yet. So for now, the volunteer needs to periodically come in and update the current status and next step for the user so they can see how the case is progressing. Now, I can create a new device to provide the details of what I'm building. So I'm going to click on Add Case Device, and I come to a new screen where I can provide the details. So I can give it a name. I am able to create multiple devices for a case. Maybe I want to create two different device types or two different scales because I'm not quite sure which one will fit, or maybe I want to create two different colors so that they can choose which one they like better. In any case, I do have the option of creating multiple devices. So each one needs to have a name so it can be recognized in the list of devices. I'm just going to call this one Phoenix Hand. And what type of device is it? It's an unlimited Phoenix, as we agreed. When was the hand fabrication completed? I'm going to leave that blank because I haven't finished fabricating it yet. I can come back and update that later. Is this a left or right-handed device? This is a right device. And we're doing 140% scale. What color is the device going to be? Well, the user requested silver, so I'm going to do silver. And what materials are going to be used? So I could put in PLA or ABS with acetone smoothing or whatever it is that I'm going to do. We'll just say PLA in this case. And then once I'm ready to ship the device off to the end user, I can come back and enter my tracking information for them here as well, but I'll leave that blank for now. So for now, I'm just going to click on Save, and I now have a new device record. I now have the ability also to upload photos. So once I'm finished 3D printing the parts, I can go ahead and upload a photo of the parts just to let the user see what the finished parts look like. Then once I've finished assembling the device, I can upload photos of that as well. So for now, I'll just go ahead and upload a photo of a Phoenix hand that I have here, just so you can see what that looks like. And then the user can click on that to see what their finished device looks like. We'll go ahead and close this screen now and come back to the case details screen. Notice on the case details screen we also have this message board. So I can click here to navigate to the message board, and this is just a very simple interface to exchange messages back and forth for anybody who's involved in a case. So if I create a new message here, just to say I'm working on 3D printing the parts for your device. I hope to have the fabrication and assembly finished in about 1 week. And I can submit that message. I can also add a file attachment if I'd like. I'll go ahead and submit that message. Now these messages are going to be visible to anybody who's assigned as part of this case. So this is just a very simple way to exchange messages back and forth. We will be providing some enhanced messaging capabilities moving forward. So at this point, I'm ready to complete the fabrication of this device. I can 3D print the parts, I can assemble it, and then I can ship it off to the end user, or I can meet with the end user in person and go through the fitting process with him. And that user will be able to then provide some feedback. There is a lot of additional functionality that's going to be added into the application to facilitate that process, as I mentioned, but for now, at least you can move through the basic process of creating a new device request and fulfilling that request. So that's what the process looks like overall. I'm just going to flip back to the user screen here. So here I am back on the user's login under device requests, and you can see that my updated status is showing fabrication is in progress, and the next step is just to wait for the fabrication and assembly to be completed. I can go in on that case details screen and view the details anytime I like. I can add additional photos if I choose to do that. I can also add videos by providing a link to a YouTube video. And I can go through to the case details screen as well. So here's the device that the volunteer created, the Phoenix hand. I can click on that to go to the device details screen. And now that I'm logged in as the user, I can update these values on the right side of the screen. I can say when that hand was received. I can enter remarks and feedback about the device, how it's working, how it's fitting, etc. And I can upload photos to show the recipient wearing the device, using the device, etc. And then I can click on Save to provide those updates. So that's the basic case flow right now. As I said, there's lots of new functionality coming, so check back often. You'll find under the documentation page up here in the menu a walkthrough to help you get started. This takes you through a lot of what I've shown you here in this video, but that is also available through the documentation page. Then on the What's New page, you can see an update for what's recently been added as well as what's coming soon. So here's a list of all the features that we're going to be adding in the near future, followed by detailed lists of what's been included in each release. So here's the list of features that were included in our first public release, and we'll add to this page as we do further releases and updates. So you can check back on the What's New page at any time to see what's just been added or what's coming soon. And one more important note for volunteers using e-NABLE Web Central, you have to make sure that you have the right roles selected, which you can choose during the registration process or from the profile editing screen. If you're not seeing these options up here for volunteering, matching, etc., then that means that you have to select those options, those roles in the profile screen. So to do that, just click on your name in the upper right corner. That'll take you to the profile page. Scroll down and click on Edit Profile. And under the list of roles that are listed there, you have to select at least Fabricator and Device Assembler if you want to be involved in the cases within the application. Currently, those are the main roles that are determining whether or not you'll see the volunteering homepage. So if you want to be 3D printing and assembling devices, go ahead and check the boxes for Fabricator and Device Assembler. The rest of these roles are really going to be incorporated later, so those are optional for now, but I do suggest that you check Fabricator and Device Assembler, then you'll get access to the volunteering homepage. We also have incorporated the Google Translate widget, which you'll find in the upper right corner. So if you're looking to use the application in a different language, all you have to do is select that language here. We'll go ahead and choose, let's see, Spanish, and now any page that you navigate to will be automatically translated by Google. So as you can see here, all of the content on the page is being translated into that language. I'm sure the translations are not going to be perfect using this approach, but hopefully it will at least make the application usable for those in other regions for the time being. And in the future, we will work with others in the community to make the application truly multilingual by having others help us to translate these different elements and pages properly. Some of the other pages that you see when you're logged in as a volunteer haven't yet been built out. So, for example, the matching page is where you'll be able to go for volunteers that want to help to match volunteers with device recipients. So as we showed you before, volunteers can go ahead and browse available cases and make an offer to help, but we want to also provide a mechanism where certain volunteers that are involved in this matching process can actually go in and propose matches between specific volunteers and device recipients. So they can go and view a map of all the different outstanding device requests and all the different volunteers, and they can find a volunteer that's close by who knows how to make the device type in question, and they can go ahead and propose a match, which that volunteer can then approve, and the user requesting the device can approve, and then the matcher can go ahead and continue monitoring those cases as they progress and help to move them along if anything gets stuck. The chapters page is going to list all of the e-NABLE chapters along with their contact information and a map so that you can find chapters near you. If you happen to be a chapter leader, you'll also have a My Chapter page where you'll be able to accept or decline any request to join your chapter. You'll be able to also propose matches for volunteers who are members of your chapter, so you can help them to get involved with different cases, people that are requesting devices. And you'll be able to monitor the progress of all active cases for your chapter members and help make sure they're moving along. There's also going to be an events page where you'll be able to set up a new event. So for example, maybe you're doing an e-NABLE handathon where you get a bunch of people together and they learn how to assemble e-NABLE devices. And for that to work, you need the help of other e-NABLE volunteers to print the parts for those devices in advance of the event, but not assemble them. So here you'll be able to set up that event, define what types of devices you're looking for, different types of scales or colors or any of those preferences. If you want to define that level of detail, you can say how many of those devices you need, and then you can open that up to the community, and other volunteers will be able to come in and make commitments for making a certain number of devices for your event. So they can go ahead and commit to making 10 devices, for example, and then it'll help you to track how many devices are requested, how many have been committed by volunteers, and then how many have actually been received, so that you can track progress leading up to the event to make sure that you get the parts that you need for the event. There's also a contact page. If you have any questions, you can always contact us. Here's a link to our email address, support@3duniverse.org. You also have this little support widget down here. The support button will always be available no matter where you are in the application. So you can click on that and just enter your name, email address, and a question for us. You can include an attachment if you like, and that'll go to the same place. That'll go to our support help desk, and we will respond to those as quickly as possible. So please do share your feedback. We welcome all feedback, and we'll incorporate that into our plans for further updates. So please share any ideas you have about how we can make the app better. If you get stuck or if you have any problems using it, please reach out to us and we'll be happy to help you. And I hope that helps you get started. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.